Welcome to the Growth Cat Podcast, where we chat with CEOs, investors, and other key industry leaders to uncover insights and strategies for accelerating growth and succeeding in business. I'm your host, RJ Lumba, Managing Partner of Growth Cat. In this episode, we chat with Bahram Akradi, the CEO and founder of Lifetime, a health and wellness company. It has operations in 38 major markets across 29 states and Canada. In 2015, TPG and Leonard Green took Lifetime private at more than $4 billion. Bahram is as amazing and inspiring as they come. He arrived in the US at the age of 17, worked to put himself through college, and soon after began his professional career in the fitness industry. Despite repeated failure to raise capital and found his company, Bahram persisted and today sits at the helm of the preeminent health and wellness company known as Lifetime. We caught up recently to chat about Bahram's journey to providing everyone with a healthy way of life. We hope you enjoy the show. Well, Bahram, thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely delighted to have this conversation. As mentioned, my wife and I are huge fans of Lifetime. I originally, had my doubts when folks started to talk about a new gym coming to Princeton, but once I started to experience it, I was just absolutely delighted. So, and amazed by what you've built. So maybe what we could do just to get the conversation started is if you could share with us a little bit about Lifetime and how you developed and evolved the idea over the years and what you think really makes it different.
Thank you so much, RJ. It's my pleasure to do that. If I go back to the very beginning thoughts in my head, was really focused on the customer experience from what was being delivered in the club business and I was involved in. And my observation was the club business was just really not focused on delivering an experience from a customer point of view. The club business, in 30 years ago, when I was working in the first chain of clubs I had built, and everybody else everything was designed, the membership type, the contracts, the way we designed space, the way we sold memberships. More or less, it was all designed from the business owner's point of view about what was the best thing for the business owner. And in many ways, I felt that the customer was being treated poorly. The team members, the people who worked in the companies were not being treated the way they should be. But the amazing fact was these customers kept coming back. So I remember I was in my mid-20s, and I thought to myself, there is something really big here. And I had gone to school for electrical engineering. I kind of got into the club business because I had an offer I couldn't refuse. I thought I'll do it for a number of years, and then I'd go on and do what I want to do, which is still design and build, but things more related to electrical engineering. However, this revelation was, oh my God, I can't believe this customer keeps coming back when they're being treated this badly. What if we did everything from a customer point of view? So I literally sat down, I drew a club based on how would I want to use the club if I was the customer. I drew the layout, I did the lighting, I did the colors, I did the amenities, what we would put in there. And it really all stems back to completely being customer focused, customer centric. And we haven't deviated from that initial thought. And every pivot that we have made in the last 25, 26, 27 years has been by really paying attention by the behavior and actions of our customer in the clubs, see what they're doing, listen to what they're saying, and trying to figure out how we can overwhelm them with giving them a product, a service, program that exceeds their expectation rather than be below. I unfortunately cannot claim that we succeed at all times, but I can tell you unequivocally that me and my entire organization is committed to do that at all times.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been a member of a ton of different gyms throughout my life, and which is why initially when people here in Princeton started talking about the new gym that was opening up, I was I had low expectations, and when I got there, it really was a different offering, and you seem to have really thought through all the needs of not only an individual but of a family, and it's as you start going there, and then the facility is new, it's clean, you've got great staff. The thing you start to think about is like, when will this become outdated? Like how can Lifetime keep it up and evolve with the customer? So I guess how frequent are you thinking of new things to implement at the club? Is it a continuous process? Is it kind of a continuous implementation cycle?
Yeah, so we actually need to go back to a word you have mentioned a couple of times. So I felt that the gym business at the very early on was the business I wasn't interested to be in. To me, the term gym reminds me of a sweaty, space, not necessarily attractive, not necessarily designed to make me feel like I want to be there. It's a place I feel like I have to go to because it's good for me, the exercise, but it's a punishment. So really, I wanted to build a country club. I wanted to build a destination that was entertaining. It just happened to be athletic and healthy entertainment. I had to change and I hope that we have done that for you. I had to change your mental impression of where it is you're going to. Are you going to a place that is more like a resort, more like a country club, more like when you go out of the town to some destination where it's fun, it's attractive, people are there expecting you to come in to greet you. It smells good, it looks good. You can get your massage, you can get your workout, you can get your healthy food. So you can go by the beautiful outdoor resort pools and lay by the pool. I mean, what I was trying to do is to build an athletic country club that invited you to come in and keep you there. Then I wanted to design something that I could have the ability to continue to invest and remodel over the years to make sure I stay relevant to the modality of exercises that you want to do at the time. As you know, health and well-being is a mega trend. For the last 40, 50 years, more and more and more and more are doing more physical activity. More and more people are focused on their health, their longevity, etc. However, the way we achieve fitness is a fad. Whether if it's a step classes for 5 years and then nobody does the step classes, or this type of workout and after 5 years nobody does it, they want something different. That's a moving target. So what I really wanted to design something that I could adapt on a regular basis and make sure at all times it stays relevant to you. So yes, Princeton's new, opened last year, but you should go to one of our clubs that has been open 15 years ago or 20 years ago and see how we continue to invest millions and millions. And when I spend over $100 million a year today in maintenance capex to make sure the places physically stay relevant, that the place, we spend at least $20+ million per year in our lifetime university to train our professionals to give you a Four Seasons like level of service and quality. We spend over $10+ million a year in the performers that we have in the clubs to teach the classes and et cetera, to catch them, to bring them in. This is not their payroll. This is just to cast them, train them, and retain them. So, I mean, we have machines in place, invented, continually and reinvented to continue to deliver the best places, the best programs, the best performers, and the best people at all times. And so the relentless effort not to fail on these things becomes the reason our brand is continuing to prevail and become more coveted rather than falling apart like some entities that you see after 20, 30 years. The lack of focus and attention in the details of how they manifest their brand is killing those companies. And unfortunately, in many cases, they blame it on something else. They blame it on Amazon, or they blame it on some other outside factor. But in fact, they're just not paying attention to their brand. They're not paying attention to their customer, and they're not paying attention to the experience or those impressions, what they are.
Yeah, you really do have raving fans, and as I found out about Lifetime through word of mouth, and actually before the opening, two different individuals were telling me how great it was going to be, and I was curious: is do you have a lot of natural kind of organic customer acquisition through word of mouth? Do you find that your spend on marketing doesn't have to be as pronounced as some of the other clubs because you got this kind of natural spreading of the word? How do you kind of think about customer acquisition?
That's a very important question. So the answer is yes. We spend substantially less on promotional outbound marketing and substantially more on the actual product, which in our case, again, is the place, the people, the programs, and the performers. The message that I have for any other executive or CEO today is that luckily for me, I have been forced to run every portion of my business over the last 25, 26 years. So for many years, I was running technology. For many years, I was running the marketing, sales, etc. And being able to take a look back at my takeaways from those, those times, one of the things that's changed over the last 30, 35 years is that we could dominate our message very strongly by overspending in marketing and creating an image for our company based on the marketing campaign. And if you could buy 3 radio stations, 4 newspapers, a couple of direct mail pieces, and you were basically covering everything. Well, as you know, and everybody else does, over the last 30 years, the medium has changed. And the strongest force in your marketing is not what you say, is what your customers say. So I have been on a mission to get to not spend, 30% of what everybody else spends in marketing. I've been on a mission to spend 0. We're not there yet. And we're going to continue our effort. A product, an experience, service, food, if you're in the food industry, it needs to be so amazingly extraordinary that it by itself makes the customer tell the story you want to be told about you.
Mhm. Mhm. And I guess like a little bit of a segue here into how you operate. And you have this one thing I noticed as well is like you have what I will term like a 360 approach with the customer, the existing customer once they kind of start experiencing Lifetime is you have the magazine, you have athletic events, you have all those amenities that you mentioned once you're in the facility, and then you've got these great people that work at Lifetime. My wife, asked me to mention Daniela, who's doing an amazing job in the Princeton location, um, and keeps my wife, going back to the classes. But how do you, getting back to kind of like execution on a business, and how do you think about um, how you set up an organization, and what are some of the key, I guess the keys to success um, to executing on an ambitious plan?
So, well, listen, I do my best. I always have considered myself an ordinary level of intelligence. I don't think of myself I'm extraordinary smart or anything like that. So I need to work harder to get ahead. That's kind of been my mentality all along. So I think it's about commitment. It's commitment to what you want to deliver, and then you need to be uncompromising in that commitment. Then you really need to focus on alignment, which means basically how many of the people in your organization can execute passionately what that commitment was. So it really, if you think about a rowing, competition, you have 8 guys sitting in a rowing boat, and then you got the guy sitting in the front, the coxswain. And what does that guy do? He is basically creating alignment in all the other 8 people. They're not, pushing their own weight, but it's just orchestrating so everybody else is moving the oars with the right in alignment, makes up for the weight of that extra person sitting on that boat. So my job is to organize my team and make sure we're all marching down the same path and we're focused on the same things. And customer service and delivering things from the customer point of view, and then in a service business, a lot of that is 100% dependent on the team member point of view. So at Lifetime, we're today about 36,000 rough and tough employees. We're gaining about 4,000 employees a year. And frankly, it's the people like Daniela so that makes your experience become what it is. And she's amazing, but she's not the only one. There are thousands of incredible, passionate people who show up and they passionately try to get their customer to have the best experience possible in whatever it is they're doing. Our performers who are teaching classes, personal training, group things, they don't think of themselves as an employee. They think of themselves as a performer. They're on the stage. They're trying to create the best entertaining and productive experience for the customer. It just takes work. It takes commitment from a CEO. It takes commitment from executive team to lead the way, not push their people, to be willing to do what they're asking their employees to do themselves. I can't ask my employees to put in more hours than I do. If I want them to work passionately, I got to work passionately. And that's really the kind of philosophies that drives Lifetime. And honestly, it's not because we are more smart or more clever. We're just, I think, more committed and more relentless.
And your personal story is amazing. You came to the States at the age of 17. You worked in order to pay for college. You began your I guess your working life early on. Um, would love to I guess just hear a little bit about how you got your start and maybe even sharing some of the challenges you had to go through, because I know that's always been helpful for some folks in our audience who are kind of going through that journey now. So from what I've you know read about you, you've had it's been amazing what you've been able to accomplish.
Well, I appreciate that. Look, first of all, I'm blessed to have had the opportunity to make it here when I did in 1978. Shortly after I was here, there was a revolution in our country, in Iran. Things kind of got displaced. I really didn't want my dad to work, and yet another job to send me an extra couple, $200-300 a month. So I decided to go get a job and work within a couple of weeks after I was here to try to, make it on my own. Probably the best scenario that could happen. I focused on just doing what I needed to do to grow myself, to make enough money to pay for school, pay for my place to live. But I also want to make a point to America, and this during your podcast, that I think is really important. Unfortunately, I hear a lot of people trying to divide us in this country today about, screaming a blame game on this or that. The reality is there is no place on earth that has more equal rights than this country. We've had a, Afro-American president for 8 years. We have women who are CEOs of some of the biggest companies. You have, gay people, heterosexuals, metrosexuals. You have, you have in the Congress. This is beautiful. This is fantastic that we live in a country that we entirely have truly equal rights. It just doesn't mean there aren't a few ignorant people who still demonstrate some aspects of being prejudiced. But that you're going to have everywhere. The fact is, we are free in this country to be free if we want to see it that way. And it's true. So I was 17. I was from Iran. Shortly after I was here, there was the revolution in Iran. They took some hostages. So there was some hardship where people were, looking at you different, like you were part of the morons who took the hostages in Iran. But, I never let it bother me. I understood. It's just an emotional aspect. And I always have seen myself as a citizen of the world, number one, particularly see myself a complete American citizen, nothing short of that. And I feel privileged to be here and have had the opportunity to work and make it happen. If you put your back into it in this country, you can do anything. And I can't say that's the case for many, many other parts of the world. So if I have any advice for anybody, is think about the positive, think about how open the doors are, how amazing the opportunities are, and just one foot in front of the other, march ahead.
That's fantastic. That's an excellent reminder of the opportunity that we all have. Is to work hard. We have kind of the right environment set up for us, and we just have to
think about this. Just 100 years ago, there was real lack of equality for the Afro-Americans versus the whites. Just 50 years ago, we had a mindset that the women couldn't run Boston Marathon. we've come a long ways, and we are still moving in that direction very rapidly. The future is really bright, and I think the opportunities are just bigger and bigger and bigger, and but the equality is amazing. And so I think people have to start thinking about what they can do instead of why they can't do something. How can I do it instead of why I can't? That's the kind of message that you have to take into your heart and soul, and you just never deviate from it. How can I get it done?
Mm-hmm. And have you what's been, if I can ask, what's been the toughest part, I guess, along your journey, and how have you been able to kind of overcome that toughest challenge that you faced along the way?
Look, I think that there was a period of time I was trying to raise money to launch Lifetime, and unfortunately, whether one reason or another, every time I got close to getting close to the goal line, for some reason things didn't want to come together. It took about 3-4 years of just complete failure. I failed and I failed and I failed and I failed, and I met with these investors that were close to invest, and then they just checked out, and those investors. And I really felt like for a period of time I felt like I was witched. I was like things was working against me. But then I realized I was doing something wrong. It was my fault. I wasn't being witched. I wanted to start my business really big. I wanted to start it as big as I started, as the last one I left. And impatiently, I wanted to be bigger within a year or two than the business I had left behind. And the learning, the education that I got, the wisdom I learned by just School of Hard Knocks was, I need to start small. I just need to start at a level that I can get started, however small that is, and then just hustle and grow the business. So I basically always tell people, think big, start small, and move really fast. And so that's how I was able to overcome, this sort of a failure of what I wanted to launch that wasn't taking off. If it was an airplane, it was, I guess, too heavy to get airborne the way I had it planned out. So I had to lighten it up to get airborne, and then make adjustments. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. And interestingly, you were, during that just to put things in perspective, if over a big span of time, you went from having these challenges with investors to now being backed by a couple of the most prestigious private equity firms out there. We've had TPG on. We know the folks over there. Very talented people. What made you decide to take the company private back in 2015?
Yeah, let me tell you a little funny story that I think your audience would appreciate. So about 27, 8 years ago, I was talking to someone, and they said, what your problem is that you're very, very successful in the past, but impatient person. You need to learn patience in order to get success again. And I started formulating a question in my head, and I started laughing. He said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Well, I was just thinking, how can I learn this patience a little faster?" Which again, it become very impatient. So look, it's taken from 1990, 89, 90, 91, when I've been working on this, in this journey. It's taken almost now 30 years. And if anything I have learned is literally just putting my back into it and allowing it enough time so the dividends come. And sometimes the dividend doesn't come when you want it. It will come 6 months later or a year later or maybe 5 years after you were expecting it. You just got to keep working. Today we're blessed. TPG, Leonard Green, LNK, Texas Teachers, and many, many other investors are either in or they would like to be part of the lifetime story and what we can do. We believe that we're going to be at 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe even 100,000 employees in the next 10 years or so, making impact on not 2 million, but maybe 5 or 10, 20 million people in the United States and maybe other countries in living a healthier, happier life. So it's really the culmination of putting the right foot forward, always doing the right thing, and keep doing it has sort of made it available for us. But I have to say, could not ask for better partners in Leonard Green, in TPG, LNK, or Texas Teachers. They have given me the utmost level of autonomy, respect, support to help this company reinvent new things and kind of create all the things we're doing today with Lifetime Living, Lifetime Work, Lifetime Villages, the athletic resorts, all the different things we're working. It absolutely feels like we are at the beginning of a journey, not at the middle or end of a journey, which is kind of exciting.
Well, Bahram, I really appreciate the time you spent with us here. I know you're a very busy person, so thank you for carving out this time. And if you ever do find yourself in Princeton, I hope you'll let me know. I know some folks here that would love to say hello, and we'd love to host you, for a dinner or even a brief gathering. I know you've got a busy schedule, so thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, RJ. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person when I'm out there. Thanks again.